Path of Exile 2 is the new action RPG set in a dark fantasy world called Wraeclast. There's this corruption spreading across the land, making everyone go crazy and monsters mutate. So to simplify that for the sake of spoilers and time, you basically have to figure out what's causing it and stop it. That's of course much easier said than done. When starting out, you pick from 6 different character classes, with 6 additional classes coming later. The monk uses a quarterstaff to mix lightning, ice and wind martial arts, while the warrior is a slower but harder hitting class that uses maces for ground slams and can block damage with shields. The ranger and mercenary are the ranged specialists, with the ranger using a bow for elemental arrows and mobility, and the mercenary using a crossbow with different ammo types like a shooter. The witch commands armies of undead minions and casts chaos spells, and the sorceress focuses on pure elemental magic like fireballs and lightning that can be comboed together. Now the cool part is, you are not locked into anything. You can mix and match skills between classes as long as your character has the right attributes. The way skills work is through items called skill gems. When you find a skill gem, you can basically learn new abilities from it, and then you can modify these abilities with support gems, like making your fireball split into multiple projectiles or adding lightning damage to your sword swings. You can stack up to 5 modifications on each skill, which allows for some massive playstyle customization. As you level up, you get points to spend in the massive passive skill tree. It has 1500 nodes. Keep in mind that you can always respec if you need to. So this is basically a giant interconnected web, split into themed clusters, where you can find small stat increases and bigger, notable passives that can significantly change how your build works. There are special nodes called keystones that have powerful bonuses, with interesting downsides. There's also a feature where you can have different specializations that switch automatically when you change weapons. After some time, you can do these special trials that let you pick an advanced class. This is called Ascendancy. These specialized classes give you really powerful and unique abilities, like we're talking being able to stop time or turn into a demon. The early access game has a pretty big campaign that takes about 25 hours to complete, but for most players this is just the beginning of the game. The endgame is where most people spend their time, and it's very extensive as they wanted to make sure players won't feel like there's a lack of endgame, even if it is called early access. The endgame centers around this infinite map system called the Atlas, where you use these special items called Waystones to open portals to different areas. Each area has its own challenge level and layout, and you're basically trying to cleanse corruption from these places. As you explore the Atlas, you will run into all sorts of different content. There's Breach, where you basically open tiers in reality and fight waves of demons while trying to keep the breach open. This is said to be a self-sustaining endgame mode, as you can keep finding tablets to add to your towers, that in turn give you more breaches. Then there's Rituals, where you sacrifice monsters at altars and then have to fight them all again for rewards. In Delirium, you step through mirrors into this nightmare realm, where everything gets progressively harder the deeper you go. And Expedition lets you set up explosive chains to recover ancient relics while fighting undead. To take it all even further, each of these systems has its own progression tree and special rewards. Breach, for example, gives you these special ring base items and catalysts to improve jewelry quality. Ritual lets you buy special crafting items. Delirium lets you add passives from the skill tree directly to your amulets. Even the trials I mentioned earlier continue into the endgame. The ultimate endgame challenge are the Pinnacle Bosses, where you have to hunt down 3 superpowered bosses to get keys to this mysterious fortress. Now the loot system in this game is, as you probably expect by now, pretty deep. Items come in different rarities, and you can craft them using various currencies. There are special unique items that have game-changing effects, like turning your dodge roll into a teleport. The game has a vendor system to break down unwanted items, the ability to add sockets to items, free trading between players because nothing is character bound, except for gold. Path of Exile 2 does finally have a currency exchange market system between players. Everything is free to play once the game fully launches, but to get access to early access, you'll have to buy a supporter pack, which in turn gives you a key that grants you access. In terms of microtransactions, they only sell cosmetic stuff and extra storage. The game will have seasons, aka leagues, lasting approximately 3 months each once the game releases, but early access does most likely not include seasons. These seasons require you to start a fresh character. If you don't want to do that, you can continue playing on the standard league, but then you will not be able to experience the new content. Right now, Path of Exile is going into early access with 3 acts. This is about 25 hours of story, but they are planning to double the content over time. And that sentence concludes today's video. If your time was respected, a like or comment is very much appreciated.